My name is Cassandra Chen. Most people call me Cassie. I'm 29 years old. 3 days ago, I walked into a conference room at Whitmore Home Solutions in Lakewood, Colorado, and listened to my father in law announce that Tyler Garrett, a 23-year-old intern who'd been with the company for exactly 3 months, would be leading the biggest project in company history, a $4.2 million contract that I had spent 18 months cultivating, a project I brought to the table, a client relationship I built from scratch. I smiled, congratulated Tyler, and 4 hours later I resigned. When my father-in-law read the fine print in my employment contract, the contract he'd signed 3 years ago without reading, his face went red. He called me at 9 p.m. His voice was shaking. "You're serious? You own everything?" I was serious. And he was about to learn exactly what everything meant. If this story resonates, take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if it genuinely connects. Drop your location and what time it is in the comments. I want to know who's out there listening. Now let me take you back to February 2021, when my father-in-law first asked me to help out with the family business. I met James Whitmore in 2017 at a marketing conference in Chicago. He was a software engineer for a fintech startup. I was the marketing director for a tech company in Denver, pulling $115,000 a year plus bonuses. We were both presenting on different panels. He made me laugh during the networking happy hour. We exchanged numbers. 6 months of long-distance dating turned into me relocating to Denver when his company offered him a senior role he couldn't refuse. We got married in May 2019. Small wedding, 80 guests, ceremony at a boutique hotel in downtown Denver. His parents, Richard and Linda Whitmore, were kind but formal. Richard owned a residential solar panel installation company called Whitmore Home Solutions. He'd started it in 2008, built it through word of mouth and grit, and by 2019 it was pulling in about $2.3 million a year in revenue. Decent for a small operation, not impressive for a company that had been around for over a decade. At our wedding reception, Richard cornered me near the dessert table. "James tells me you're in marketing." "I am. I run the marketing department at Ascend Tech. We do B2B software." "Ever work with small businesses?" "I've consulted for a few on the side." He nodded, chewing a piece of wedding cake. "We should talk sometime. I could use some advice." I smiled politely. "Happy to help." That conversation didn't go anywhere for 2 years. Then in February 2021, James came home from Sunday dinner at his parents' house with a request. "My dad's struggling with the business. He's getting older, and he's not keeping up with how things are done now. No website, no social media. He's still running Yellow Pages ads." I looked up from my laptop. Yellow Pages still exist? Apparently. He asked if you'd be willing to help him modernize. Just some consulting. He'd pay you, obviously. I closed the laptop. "I have a full-time job, James. I know. But maybe part-time? Evenings, weekends? It would mean a lot to him and to me." There it was, the family card. I should have said no. I should have recognized the setup. But I loved my husband, and I wanted his family to like me, and I thought helping out for a few months wouldn't hurt. Let me talk to him. See what he actually needs. The following week, I met Richard at his office. Whitmore Home Solutions operated out of a small industrial building near Highway 285. The lobby had a faded logo on the wall, outdated brochures on a rack, and a receptionist who worked 3 days a week. Richard walked me through the operation. 10 installers, 2 project managers, 1 CFO named Meena Patel who handled the books, and Richard who did sales, client relations, and strategy. "What's your customer acquisition process?" I asked. "Word of mouth mostly. Some referrals from contractors. We run an ad in the Yellow Pages. Website? We have one. My nephew built it in 2009. Haven't updated it since." I pulled it up on my phone. It loaded like it was 2003. Broken links, pixelated logo, contact form that didn't work. Social media, don't believe in it. Email marketing, we send Christmas cards. I set my phone down. Richard, you're leaving money on the table. Denver's one of the top markets for residential solar in the country. The federal tax credit just got extended. There are new home builders breaking ground every month. Your competitors are online. They're running Google ads. They're building partnerships. You're invisible. He leaned back in his chair. So, what do I need? A complete overhaul, new website, SEO strategy, social media presence, email campaigns, content marketing, lead generation funnels, partnerships with builders and real estate agents. I could probably double your revenue in 2 years if you let me build this right. His eyes lit up. How much would that cost? To hire an agency? $10,000 a month minimum. To hire someone in-house at my level, $120,000 a year base salary. His face fell. I can't afford that. I know. That's why I'm offering to do it for you. But I need a real employment contract, not a handshake deal. And I need you to understand this is actual work. I'm not doing this as a favor. This is a professional engagement. Richard nodded. Of course. What's fair? I thought about it. My current salary was $115,000. I'd be doing this part-time at first, maybe 20 hours a week, ramping to full-time if it went well. 45,000's to start. We revisit in a year based on results. It was low, way below market rate. But it was family, and I thought I'd be able to renegotiate once I proved my value. Richard extended his hand. Deal. I'll need a contract in writing. Of course. I'll have my lawyer draft something. That night, I called my father, David Chen. He'd been a business attorney for 35 years before retiring. He'd seen every version of family business disaster. Dad, I need you to look at a contract for me. What kind of contract? I explained the situation. Richard's company, the marketing role, the $45,000 salary. My father was quiet for a long moment. Cassie, this is a mistake. Why? Because you're worth more than $45,000, and he knows it. He's taking advantage of the fact that you're family. He's not. He's running a $2 million company, and he's offering you half of what you're worth because he thinks you'll say yes out of loyalty. Don't do this unless you protect yourself. How? Let me draft the contract. I'll make sure you have an exit strategy. 2 weeks later, my father sent me a 14-page employment agreement. Most of it was standard salary, benefits, termination clauses, confidentiality. But on page 11, buried in section 7, subsection 3, was a clause my father had written specifically for this situation. Employee retains intellectual property rights to all marketing systems, processes, client relationships, and digital assets developed during employment. Upon termination, employee may transfer said assets to new employment, or company may purchase full rights for fair market value, minimum $250,000 or 6 months gross salary, whichever is greater. I read it 3 times. Dad, this says I own everything I create. Exactly. If this goes south, you walk away with your work. He wants to keep it. He pays you what it's worth. He's not going to agree to this. He will if he doesn't read it. And men like Richard don't read contracts from family. They skim the salary number and sign. That feels manipulative. Cassie, you're about to spend years building his business for half your market value. This isn't manipulation. This is insurance. If he treats you right, this clause never matters. If he doesn't, you have leverage. Trust me. I sent the contract to Richard on March 5th, 2021. He signed it on March 8th and emailed it back with a smiley face emoji. He never mentioned clause 7.3. I don't think he ever saw it. I started on March 15th, 2021. The first 3 months were chaos. The company had no infrastructure, no brand guidelines, no messaging framework, no customer database that wasn't stored in an Excel file from 2014. I started from scratch. I registered a new domain moresolar.com under my personal LLC, CC Marketing Solutions, because the company didn't have an LLC set up for digital assets. I built the website myself using WordPress, hired a freelance designer for the logo, and launched it in May. I created social media accounts, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. I used my personal business email as the admin because the company didn't have a business email system. I set up Google Analytics, ran SEO audits, started a blog. I designed brochures, rewrote sales scripts, created email templates. I contacted every home builder in the Denver metro area and pitched partnerships. Most ignored me. 3 responded. By December 2021, Whitmore Home Solutions had a functioning digital presence for the first time in its history. Website traffic went from 200 visits a month to 4,500. Social media followers grew from 0 to 3,200. We started getting inbound leads, actual people filling out contact forms, calling the office, asking for quotes. Revenue for 2021 hit $3.1 million. Up from $2.3 million the year before. Richard was thrilled. At the company Christmas party, he stood up and gave a toast. "This has been our best year ever, and I want to thank everyone who made it possible. Special shout out to Cassie for helping us get into the 21st century." Helping. Not leading. Not building. Helping. I smiled and raised my glass. In January 2022, I asked for a raise. "Richard, we need to talk about my salary." He was in his office reviewing a bid for a new project. "What about it?" "I've been here almost a year. Revenue's up 35%. I've built an entire marketing department from nothing. I think it's time to adjust my compensation to reflect the value I'm adding." "What are you thinking?" "Market rate for my role is $120,000 to $140,000. I'm asking for $75,000. Still below market, but closer to fair." Richard set down his pen. "Cassie, we're family. This isn't just about money." "It's a job, Richard. I have a job. I need to be paid fairly. And you are. We gave you $45,000 for part-time work. That's generous. I'm working 40 hours a week now. That's full-time. Then we'll make it official. Full-time position, $50,000. That's not what I'm asking for." Richard leaned back. "Look, I appreciate what you've done. I do. But we're a small company. We can't afford to pay Bay Area salaries." "I'm not asking for Bay Area salary. I'm asking for Denver market rate." "I'll think about it." He didn't think about it. 2 weeks later, he gave me a $5,000 raise. $50,000 total. And he acted like he'd done me a favor. That's when I started keeping records. Every email, every project, every client interaction. I saved everything to a personal cloud folder. I didn't know why yet. I just knew I'd need it eventually. In June 2022, I attended a Denver Home Builders Association event. It was a networking mixer at a hotel in Cherry Creek. Developers, architects, contractors, suppliers. I went alone because Richard said he wasn't a mixer guy. That's where I met Andrew Keller, the development director for Summit Ridge Estates. Summit Ridge was a luxury housing development planned for Highlands Ranch 340 homes, high-end finishes, targeting upper-middle-class families moving to Colorado from California. Andrew and I talked for 20 minutes about solar installation, federal tax credits, how sustainability was becoming a selling point for new builds. He handed me his card. "We're going to need a solar partner for this project. Send me your info. Let's stay in touch." I sent him an email the next day. We scheduled a call, then a meeting, then a site visit. Over the next 18 months, I cultivated that relationship. I met with Andrew every 6 weeks. I sent him case studies, answered his questions, connected him with past clients for references. I played golf, learned how to play golf because Andrew liked to do business on the course. Richard came to 3 meetings total. He shook Andrew's hand, talked about quality and reliability, and let me handle the rest. By January 2024, we were in final contract negotiations. Summit Ridge was projected to be a $4.2 million job, the biggest contract Whitmore Home Solutions had ever seen. I was the one in every email chain, every phone call, every contract revision. My name was on every document as the primary contact. Then, in February 2024, Richard hired Tyler Garrett. Tyler was 23 years old, fresh out of Colorado State, with a business degree and an ego the size of the Rockies. He was the son of Richard's golf buddy, Greg Garrett, who owned a chain of car dealerships in the Springs. Tyler's title was management intern. His job description was vague. His first week, he sat in on a project meeting and suggested we leverage TikTok to reach Gen Z homebuyers. I bit my tongue. His second week, he told me my email campaigns were a little outdated. How so? I asked. Just the tone. It's very corporate. We should be more casual, more fun. We're selling $30,000 solar installations to homeowners in their 40s and 50s. Fun isn't the strategy, just something to think about. By week 3, Tyler was sitting in Richard's office every afternoon, talking strategy. Richard started using phrases like fresh perspective and young blood. I ignored it. I had Summit Ridge to close. On March 15th, 2024, Andrew Keller sent the final signed contract, $4.2 million, 3-year installation timeline, 340 homes. It was official. I forwarded the email to Richard with the subject line, Summit Ridge signed. Richard replied, excellent work. Let's discuss rollout. 3 days later, on March 18th, he called an all-hands company meeting. Everyone gathered in the conference room. 10 installers, 2 project managers, Nina the CFO, Tyler, and me. Richard stood at the head of the table, arms crossed, smiling. I have exciting news. We've just signed the biggest contract in company history. Summit Ridge Estates 340 homes, $4.2 million over 3 years. This is a game changer for Whitmore Home Solutions. Everyone clapped. I stayed silent. I've given a lot of thought to who should lead this project. It's going to require energy, vision, and fresh thinking. So I'm proud to announce that Tyler Garrett will be our lead project manager for Summit Ridge. The room went quiet. Tyler's face lit up. The project managers exchanged glances. Nina looked at me. I kept my face neutral. Tyler's going to bring a new approach to how we manage large-scale projects, Richard continued. Cassie, I'd like you to support Tyler in a consulting capacity. You know the client, so you'll be a valuable resource as he ramps up. Support, resource, consulting capacity. I smiled. Congratulations, Tyler. That's quite an opportunity. Tyler grinned. Thanks, Cassie. I'm excited to take this to the next level. The meeting ended. Everyone filtered out. Tyler stayed behind, shaking Richard's hand. I went to my office, closed the door, and pulled up my employment contract, page 11, section 7, subsection 3. I read it twice. Then I opened a blank document and started typing. Urgentiation letter Richard Whitmore, CEO, Whitmore Home Solutions, March 18, 2024. Dear Richard, I am writing to formally resign from my position as Marketing Director at Whitmore Home Solutions, effective immediately per Clause 12.4 of my employment agreement. Per Clause 7.3 of said agreement, I am providing notice that all intellectual property, marketing systems, digital assets, and client relationships developed during my employment remain under my ownership unless the company exercises its option to purchase full rights per the terms outlined in the contract. Please coordinate with HR regarding final payroll and benefits termination. All company property in my possession has been returned. Sincerely, Cassandra Chen. I printed 2 copies, signed both, put one in an envelope for Richard, walked the second to HR. Nina was in her office when I knocked. Cassie, hey. Hell of a meeting, huh? Can I give you something? I handed her the resignation letter. She read it. Her eyes went wide. You're quitting? Effective immediately. Does Richard know? He will in about 5 minutes. Nina read the letter again. Then she looked at me. Clause 7.3. I remember that clause. I reviewed this contract when you started. I thought it was a weird provision. It's about to be a very important provision. Holy shit, Cassie. You own the website, the social media, everything I built. He wants to keep it. He pays for it. Nina laughed. Once, sharp and surprised, he's going to lose his mind. Probably. I walked to Richard's office, knocked twice, entered without waiting for a response. He was on the phone, held up one finger. I waited. He hung up. Cassie, what's up? I placed the envelope on his desk. I'm resigning. Effective immediately. He stared at me. Then he laughed. What? Don't be ridiculous. I'm not. That's my resignation letter. HR has a copy. He opened the envelope, read the letter. His smile faded. You can't just quit. We're in the middle of Summit Ridge. I can. Clause 12.4 of my employment contract allows for immediate resignation with 24-hour notice for final payroll processing. I'm invoking that clause. This is insane. Tyler needs you. He's never managed a project this big. Then maybe you should have thought of that before giving him the project. Richard stood up. Cassie, I know you're upset about the decision, but this is family business. We work through disagreements. We don't quit. I'm not quitting because I'm upset. I'm quitting because I'm undervalued, underpaid, and replaced by a 23-year-old who's been here 3 months. That's not a disagreement. That's a pattern. I'll talk to James. We'll figure this out. This has nothing to do with James. This is between me and you, as employer and employee. Please review Clause 7.3. You'll be receiving formal notice about IP transfer termination within 24 hours. His face shifted from confused to alarmed. What does that mean? It means I own everything I built. The website, the social media, the client database, the email marketing, the SEO strategy, the content library, all of it. If you want to keep using it, you'll need to purchase the rights per the contract terms. That can't be legal. It's the contract you signed. I turned to leave. Cassie, wait. I stopped at the door. How much? For what? To transfer everything. How much? It's in the contract. Minimum $250,000 or 6 months gross salary, whichever is greater. His face went red. That's extortion. That's the agreement you signed in March 2021. If you don't want to pay, that's fine. Rebuild everything yourself. Good luck with Summit Ridge. I walked out. Tyler was in the hallway. He'd clearly been listening. Heard you're leaving. Probably for the best. We need fresh energy around here anyway. I looked at him. This kid who'd been handed everything I'd worked for. Enjoy the project, Tyler. You'll need the website, the social media accounts, the client contact list, and Andrew Keller's cell phone number. Oh, wait. I kept walking. I packed my personal belongings into a box. A framed photo of James and me. A coffee mug. The succulent plant on my desk that I'd somehow kept alive for 3 years. I carried the box to my car, loaded it into the trunk, and drove home. That night, James came home at 6:30. I was sitting on the couch with a glass of wine. My dad called me. He said, "You quit." I did. Cassie, what the hell? He gave Summit Ridge to Tyler. I know, he told me. Tyler's hungry. Dad thinks Tyler's unqualified. I spent 18 months building that client relationship. I closed that contract, and your father handed it to an intern who's been here 12 weeks. James sat down. This is about ego. No, this is about respect. Your father has paid me $45,000 a year for 3 years to do work worth $120,000. I've saved the receipts, James. I know what I'm worth. So you're just going to walk away? From family? Your father treated me like cheap labor, not family. I'm done. He's going to be furious. He already is. James was quiet for a long moment. What happens now? I don't know, but I'm not going back. The next morning, March 19th, Richard called his lawyer. I know this because Nina texted me at 9:47 a.m. He's in his office screaming at someone on the phone about enforceability. I think it's his lawyer. This is amazing. At 10:15 a.m., Richard tried to log into the company website to post an update. The admin panel was locked. I was the only administrator. I'd changed the password at 11 p.m. the night before. At 11 a.m., he tried to post on Instagram. The account was linked to my personal business email. He couldn't access it. At 1 p.m., he tried to send an email campaign to the client database. The subscription was through my personal software account. I canceled it that morning. At 3 p.m., Nina called me. He's losing it. Website's down. Social media's locked. He can't send emails. He's asking me how to fix it. Can't help him. I don't work there anymore. He's going to call you. I won't answer. I didn't. By March 20th, Richard had called me 14 times. I blocked his number. He called James. James called me. Cassie, you have to talk to him. No, I don't. He's my father. And I'm your wife. Who are you going to support here? Silence. I need to think about this, James said. You do that. March 21st, Richard called Andrew Keller. Andrew, it's Richard Whitmore. Just wanted to touch base about Summit Ridge. Make sure we're aligned on timeline. Andrew's voice was friendly but cautious. Sure, Richard. Is Cassie available? She's been our main contact for the past year and a half. I'd love to loop her in. Cassie's no longer with the company. Pause. Oh, I wasn't aware. When did that happen? This week. But don't worry, we have a great team. Tyler Garrett is taking over as lead PM. I don't think I've met Tyler. He's fantastic. Young, energetic, fresh ideas. Richard, I need to be honest. We've been working with Cassie for 18 months. She knows our specs, our timeline, our concerns. This is a significant change. Can we schedule a call to discuss transition? Of course. I'll have Tyler reach out. Andrew hung up and immediately called me. Cassie, what happened? I resigned. Because of Summit Ridge? That was part of it. Are you available for a consultation? I'd pay you directly. We're nervous about continuity. I can't. Conflict of interest while the contract's active. But if things change, call me. March 22nd. Emergency meeting. Richard, Tyler, Nina. Richard, Tyler, you're taking over Summit Ridge. Where's the client file? Tyler, I assumed it was in the system. Richard, it's not. Cassie has it. Tyler, so, ask her for it. Richard, she's not returning my calls. Tyler's confidence wavered for the first time. I'll reach out to the client directly, build rapport. Richard, good, do that. Nina, Richard, we have a bigger problem. Richard, what? Nina slid a revenue projection across the table. Without the website, social media, and email marketing, our lead generation is going to drop by 60% to 70%. We have 3 other major bids in the pipeline. All of them came through Cassie's channels. If we can't maintain the digital presence, we lose them. Richard, we'll rebuild. Nina, that'll take 9 months minimum and cost $80,000 to $100,000 to hire an agency. Tyler, I can handle social media. Nina looked at him like he'd suggested building a rocket ship. Tyler, social media is the least of our problems. March 25th. Linda Whitmore called James. I need to talk to you and Cassie. Family dinner, tonight. No excuses. We showed up at 7 p.m. Richard was already there, sitting at the dining table with his arms crossed. Linda stood at the head of the table. She looked angrier than I'd ever seen her. Richard, explain what's happening with the company. Richard glared at me. Cassie quit in the middle of our biggest project. She's holding the company hostage. Hostage? I said calmly. I resigned. That's not hostage taking. You took everything with you. I own everything I created. You signed a contract that let me keep it. James looked at me. You planned this? I planned for the possibility that working for your father wouldn't work out. Turns out I was right. Linda's voice cut through. Richard, how much were you paying her? Richard shifted. That's between how much? 45,000. Linda turned to me. And what should you have been paid? Market rate for a marketing director with my experience in Denver is $120,000 to $140,000. Linda's jaw tightened. She looked at Richard. You paid her a third of what she's worth? She's family. We don't finish that sentence. Linda's voice was ice. You underpaid her by how much over 3 years? I did the math out loud. $225,000. Linda sat down. She looked at her husband like she was seeing him for the first time. You stole $225,000 from your own daughter-in-law. I didn't steal anything. She agreed to the salary because you made her feel like she owed you, because you used family as leverage. My phone buzzed. I pulled it out. A call from a number I recognized. Excuse me, I need to take this. I stepped into the other room. Cassie Chen. Cassie, it's David. My father. I'm guessing you're at a family meeting right now. How did you know? Because Richard's lawyer called me today. He wants to negotiate. I told him we'd be happy to discuss terms. What terms? Transfer of intellectual property. He's offering $100,000. The contract says $250,000 minimum. I know. I told him that. He said it's extortion. I said it's the contract he signed. He hung up. So what now? Now we wait. He'll call back. I returned to the dining room. Linda was crying. James was staring at the table. Richard was on his phone. Linda looked up. Cassie, what do you want from this? I want fair compensation for the work I did, and I want acknowledgement that what I built had value. Richard slammed his phone down. Fine, I'll pay you $100,000 for the IP transfer. The contract says $250,000 minimum. That's insane. My father's voice came from my phone speaker. I'd switched to speaker when I walked in. Richard, this is David Chen. I'm on the line as Cassie's legal counsel. The contract you signed in March 2021 clearly states the minimum transfer fee is $250,000 or 6 months' gross salary, whichever is greater. If you'd like to negotiate, we're happy to discuss. But the floor is $250,000. That's the agreement you signed. Richard's face went purple. You set me up. No, my father said calmly. I protected my daughter from exactly this scenario. You had 3 years to treat her fairly. You chose not to. Now you're facing the consequences. Richard looked at me. I won't be extorted. Then rebuild everything yourself, I said. Good luck. I left. March 30th. Richard's lawyer sent a settlement offer. $250,000 IP transfer fee, $75,000 in back salary adjustment, public acknowledgement of my contributions to company growth. Richard refused. I'm not paying her a dime. Nina Patel walked into his office that afternoon and handed him her resignation. I can't work for someone who treats people like this. She was gone by April 1st. April 1st, 2024, I started a new job. Melissa Torres, my friend from my previous marketing role, had moved to Solar Edge Denver, a competitor solar company. She'd been trying to recruit me for a year. She called me March 20th. I heard what happened. Want a job? What's the role? VP of Marketing. $145,000 base, equity, performance bonuses. You'd have a team of 5. Full budget for campaigns. And you'd report directly to me. I'm in. My first day, I brought my playbook, the strategies I'd developed at Whitmore, refined and improved. I brought my client relationships, the ones I cultivated personally, not through Whitmore's systems, and I brought my reputation. Andrew Keller called me in May. Cassie, we're reconsidering the Whitmore contract. Why? Tyler Garrett missed 2 deadlines. Communication's been terrible. We don't have confidence in the team. I'm sorry to hear that. I heard you're at Solar Edge now. I am. Can Solar Edge handle Summit Ridge? I smiled. We can. June 2024. Summit Ridge's date signed with Solar Edge Denver. $4.2 million contract. My first major close in my new role. Richard found out through trade publication. He called James. Your wife stole my client. James, to his credit, said, no. You lost your client when you undervalued the person who brought them in. July 2024. Whitmore Home Solutions revenue dropped 40%. Richard was forced to sell the company to a private equity firm. They paid $3.1 million. He'd been projecting an $8 million valuation before I left. August 2024. James and I separated. Trial separation. He'd chosen his father over me too many times. September 2024. Linda filed for divorce. Turns out Richard had been hiding money in offshore accounts. That came out during the PE acquisition due diligence. December 2024. I'm sitting in a ballroom at the Denver Marriott. The Denver Business Journal is hosting their annual 30 Under 30 Awards. I'm wearing a navy dress, my hair pulled back, feeling more confident than I have in years. They call my name. Cassandra Chen, Senior Vice President of Marketing, Solar Edge, Denver. In 8 months, Cassie has generated $12 million in new revenue and established Solar Edge as the leading residential solar provider in the Denver metro area. I walk to the stage, accept the award. The room applauds. I scan the audience and I see him. Richard Whitmore, sitting 3 rows from the back. He's here networking, trying to rebuild his reputation after the sale. I make eye contact. He looks away first. At the podium, I keep my speech short. I want to thank everyone who believed in my vision, even when others didn't, especially those who gave me the freedom to build something meaningful. This award isn't just mine, it belongs to every person who trusted me to lead. I step down. The applause follows me off the stage. After the ceremony, Richard tries to approach me. I see him coming. I turn and walk the other direction. James texts me that night. I saw the award announcement. Congratulations. I'm proud of you. I don't respond immediately. I wait until morning. Thank you. How are you? I've been in therapy, working through some things. I realize I should have supported you from the beginning. I'm sorry. I appreciate that. Can we talk? In person? I think about it for a long time. Maybe. But I need to know something first. If your father and I are on opposite sides of something again, who are you going to choose? 3 hours pass. Then you. I choose you. I should have done that from the start. It's not forgiveness. Not yet. But it's a start. Richard Whitmore thought he could get 3 years of high-level marketing work for the price of an entry-level coordinator. He thought family meant I'd accept less because I owed him loyalty. I taught him a different lesson. Family means respect. Loyalty is earned, not assumed. And contracts, especially ones you don't bother to read, are legally binding. He signed a document that gave me ownership of everything I built. I just never thought I'd have to use it. But when he handed my biggest project to a 23-year-old intern, he made the choice for me. The contract was insurance. I just filed the claim. Have you ever worked for family and been treated like you owed them, not like they owed you fair pay? What did you do? Tell me in the comments. And if you ever left a job that thought you were replaceable and proved them wrong, drop a below. If this one resonated, hit that subscribe button. Next week, I'm telling you about a woman whose sister tried to claim half her inheritance after 15 years of no contact. Different family, same audacity. See you then.